Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly and I'm a former wedding planner and blogger, and I'm obsessed with weddings. If you're planning a wedding in Ireland, you're in the right place. You're going to learn the tried and tested methods to planning your dream wedding without the added stress. Think of this as your one-stop shop for everything to do with planning your wedding in Ireland, with me, your new wedding planning bestie, and a cup of tea. This is Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Well, hello, it's Wednesday, and that means it's time for another episode of Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. And today we're starting a two-part series all about wedding budgets. So what we're going to talk about next week is everything that bridesmaids can expect to pay for, and therefore everything that the bride and groom can expect to pay for. And this week we're talking all about wedding expenses that you might not be expecting. So there are a lot of things that you need to think about when you're planning your wedding. There are lots of different expenses, different categories of things to think about, and often many hidden costs or things that you just forget about. And my advice is always to have an itemized wedding budget. So for example, instead of just saying wedding stationery, you list every piece of wedding stationery that you intend to pay for. That way you make sure that you aren't finding out about costs that you didn't think about right at the last minute and tripping yourself up and having to go over your budget. So we actually did a survey recently for Weddings Online, which we will release soon. And in the survey, we found that so many couples go over their budget by as much as 5,000 euros. But you know what? That doesn't have to be you, because if you are planned and if you listen to what I'm going to share with you today, you can factor in these costs and they won't take you by surprise. So we're going to go through the costs together. I'm going to give you the overarching category and then a few items within that. And hey, if there are any items on this list that you have remembered, that you have put in your budget, well done to you. It means that you're ahead of the game. But I'm sure there will be at least one item on this list that you'll go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't know that I needed to budget for that. So let's get started. First category is everything to do with the pre-wedding. So first is pre-wedding outfits. Now, of course, you've probably thought about your wedding day outfits, but have you thought about what you're going to wear to your pre-wedding events? For example, hen party, stag party, engagement party, if you're having an engagement shoot. Anything that you're planning on wearing before the wedding day counts as a pre-wedding outfit and should be budgeted for. So don't forget that. Next, wedding party gifts. Now, you know those amazing bridal robes that you see with all the bridesmaids matching, amazing boxes to propose to your bridesmaids. All those types of things count as wedding party gifts, and you shouldn't forget about them. And in the next episode for next week, when we're talking all about bridesmaids and different things, we'll cover some of this, but it's not something that you want to forget because it's a gift. You want to give something really special to your bridesmaids, whether that's something you give when you ask them to be in your wedding party, something halfway along the engagement process, or a gift on the day of your wedding when you're all getting ready together. It's something that you'd want to include in your budget. Next item, and I guarantee you someone who's listening today has definitely forgotten this one, and it is postage. So you've got your wedding invitations, you've factored in the fee that you're going to pay for a designer to make this wedding invitation look incredible. You've probably thought about envelopes too, but what about the postage? Now, depending on the weight and the size of your wedding invitations, you can pay up to €1 per envelope. Now, if you think about how many guests you're inviting or how many families or couples you've got, it can add up if you forget that piece of information that you need to put on your wedding budget. And now the final item in the pre-wedding category is pre-wedding food. Now, of course, I'm not talking about all the food that you're going to eat before the wedding. I'm talking specifically about on your wedding day, when you're getting ready with your besties, you're in those cute robes that we spoke about. What are you eating on that day? You've got some bubbles, probably some snacks. Depending on the time of day that your ceremony is taking place, you may need to have a whole meal at some point in the day. I highly recommend not walking down the aisle on an empty stomach. So think about the food and who's going to pay for it. If it's going to be you, which I highly recommend paying for some food for your wedding party and your hair and makeup artist, Don't forget to put that in your budget. Now, speaking about getting ready for the wedding, the next category is everything to do with attire and beauty. So, you've obviously thought about the wedding day outfits. Of course you have, but have you thought about the underwear and accessories? When you're going wedding dress shopping, you need to consider what you're going to wear under the dress. You need to think about your shoes, your veil. You need to think about the jewelry. All the things that make your wedding day look come together should be budgeted for as well. Next is beauty treatments. Are you planning on having a beauty treatment plan? Maybe you want to have facials, leading up to the big day, or you want to have waxes, teeth whitening, spray tan. All of those types of beauty treatments should be in your budget. Now, I know you've thought about your hair and I know you've thought about your makeup, and those are some obvious costs that you will put into your budget. But what about the trials? It's always a good idea to have a hair and makeup trial because that gives you and your hair and makeup artists a chance to see what look is going to be the best one for the day. It's not necessarily a practice run or a test to see if you'd like the person who you've chosen. It's more so that you can get an idea of what you're going to look like on the day, and the hair and makeup artist has some time to slowly walk you through your different options. You can test lipstick shades and eyeshadows, all kinds of things. It'll give you so much comfort knowing that you've had your trial. So when it comes time to get ready on the wedding day, you've had the trial, you and the hair and makeup artist know exactly what you're going for, but it often does cost money. Have a chat with your hairstylist and your makeup artist to see what it costs and put that in your budget because I highly recommend including that. And finally, when it comes to attire and beauty, don't forget about alterations. You've got your wedding dress. You've now got the underwear, the accessories, everything to put the dress together, but don't forget about alterations. If you need to have your dress hemmed or taken in, whatever you need to do, there is a cost associated with that and you don't want to be tripped up. Now, I've already mentioned what's coming up next week, but I want to remind you again that next week's episode is all about what bridesmaids should really expect to pay for, and therefore, as the couple, what you should expect to pay for. So don't miss out. But the episode is not finished. We still have some more wedding day costs that you may have forgotten about. The next category is decor. So I mentioned before that it's always a good idea to have an itemized list of everything you're paying for in your wedding budget. And I used wedding stationery as an example. And that's because so many people forget that your wedding stationery is not just your wedding invitations. There's also save the dates. There's also thank you cards. There's menus. There's mass booklets, place cards, a table plan. There's a lot to think about and it all comes together with your wedding stationery, but you don't want to only be thinking about the invitations. Okay, when it comes to decor, what about the delivery, the setup, the breakdown? It's not just about the items that you're going to have, but how will they get to your wedding venue? Who's going to set them up? Please don't tell me it will be you, because on your wedding day, the last thing you want to be doing is setting up decor. And after the big day, who's going to take it down and return it to wherever you've hired it from? These are things that you need to consider. You need to get someone's help and you need to budget for it. Okay, the next item when it comes to decor is a sound system for the ceremony. So now, of course, if you have a band or a DJ, they're going to have their own sound system for the entertainment side of things, which often happens later in the day. But during your wedding ceremony, you want to be able to hear your vows. You want your family and your friends to be able to hear these incredible promises that you and your other half are making to each other. And that's where a sound system comes in. So now, of course, some venues will have a basic PA system, but depending on the size of your guest list and the location at the wedding venue that you choose to get married in, you might need something else. So don't forget about it. Finally, when it comes to decor, something that you should definitely be budgeting for is your plan B. Let's face it, Ireland has amazing weather. I've definitely experienced some incredible sunny, clear, even sunny, clear wintry days, but there's also a chance that it's going to rain or be very windy, and that you may need to have another location if you were planning on being predominantly outdoors. And often this plan B comes with an extra cost, especially if you're planning on hiring a marquee. My advice, have a portion of your budget that's allocated to your plan B. And if you don't end up using it, great, you've just saved some money. But if you do end up using it, at least you're not scraping together coins to make it happen. Okay, the next category, we're almost coming to the end. The next category is all about your suppliers. And these are 3 things that you should consider putting into your budget so that you are not taken by surprise closer to the big day. First, a meal for the suppliers. Now, your suppliers are the ones who are going to bring your wedding dreams to life, and they need to be fed. It's going to help them do an incredible job by having energy and having a chance to just refresh, sit down, and eat a good meal. So include that in your budget, find out which suppliers will be at the reception dinner, and make sure there's something for them to eat. Okay, so the next cost when it comes to suppliers is to do with taxes and service charges. Suppliers do things in different ways, they quote in different ways. So what I recommend doing is reading your contract to see if the price that you've been quoted includes taxes and service charges. And if not, find out what those costs are and include them in your budget. And then finally, in this category is extra hours. Let's say, for example, you've decided that your wedding is going to finish at 3 a.m. What happens if in the moment you decide you actually want an extra hour of party time with your guests because you're having so much fun? Many of your suppliers will have a fee for what it would cost to keep the party going for an extra hour. And you need to know what that cost is. It does cost a venue to pay staff to stick around for an extra hour. There's electricity costs. The DJ will have a fee as well. So many suppliers will have a cost, and it's helpful to know what that is so you can make an informed decision if that's going to take you way out of your budget or not. And now the final category and the final item on our list of things people forget about. This one is probably the most surprising one, and I know it's going to throw a few people off, but don't forget about yourselves. So many couples forget to include themselves in the head count. Now think about all the things that each person will have. That's a meal, it's a chair, it's a space at the table, it's a wedding favor, it's a drink. So many things are charged for based on per person and per head. So don't forget to include yourselves in the head count because you may be taken by surprise at the end of the day. Don't forget to come back for next week because we're talking all about things that bridesmaids should expect to pay for. Well, thank you for listening today. The Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online podcast is produced by me, Kelly, and mixed, mastered, and edited by Glenn Hartman. For more wedding planning tips, advice, checklists, and more, visit weddingsonline.ie.